I just remember getting in the car and heading to the airport and thinking, I'm supposed to be in Chicago. I mean, there's literally no way for me to decide to move to Chicago with 2 3-year-olds, no job, and then I get a job offer from the Chicago Bulls. I'm supposed to be in Chicago.
That's Dr. Wendy Borlabi, Director of Performance and Mental Health for the Chicago Bulls. And this is Make Yourself at Home, the podcast that takes you into the homes of people you admire to show you a side you don't usually get to see. I'm Kristen Twyford, and every week we'll talk to someone at the top of their career to explore holistic success and how work and home are inextricably intertwined. Along the way, we hope to inspire you to live well, whatever that means to you. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, the household management app designed to help you manage your home and everything that comes with it, so you can live with ease. Today, we're in Wendy Borlabi's home in Chicago, Illinois, talking about finding her confidence, solo parenting, and why she always trusts her gut instinct. Dr. B is a renowned sports psychologist who worked with Olympic athletes in San Diego before joining the Bulls in 2016. She just spoke at the Forbes Power Women Summit, and she's an expert at helping athletes achieve their goals. But a powerhouse career was never a goal of her own. She wanted to play basketball and become a mom, but she fell into a field she never imagined, and for years she was happy to focus on work. Then a health scare put things into perspective and set off a sea of change in her life that would lead her to have twins, move to Chicago, and land a job with the Bulls that she says feels meant to be. Make Yourself at Home with Dr. Wendy Borlabi. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for having us into your home today. We're so excited to have you on Make Yourself at Home.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm ready to talk, to see what we can learn from each other.
Yes, me too. I really have been looking forward to this. And I want to start our conversation with a sense of home and talk to you about your home. I know you're going through a moment of transition right now, but set the stage for us and tell us a little bit about your home.
Yeah, so I'm a solo parent of twins. They're 9. Actually, they will be 10 on Monday. So they're
happy birthday.
Boy, girl. Yes, they're 10 on Monday. So I can't believe they're going to be 10. But yes, wow. They're growing up.
Double digits.
And I know, it's the wildest thing. I still can't believe it. I'm like, I just need them to be like 2 and 3, but no, they're going to be 10. They're going to be 10. And so we are actually, as you said, in transition. I bought an older house and remodeling it. So we moved out. We've been out of the house for 5 months now, staying in an apartment. And so house is going to be done. Maybe even by Christmas, but by the end of the year for sure. So we're literally got the inspections. They're putting up the walls, and then all the pretty stuff goes in. So it's totally excited to be back into our house.
That is so exciting, and what a cool time of the year to move into your new home. At this sort of moment of reflection and ready to start a new year. That's so exciting. What does home mean to you?
So, oh my gosh, what does home mean to me? I think that I've moved so many times, lived in so many places. I mean, so many times that people will pencil my, back in the day, pencil my address in because I'd move like a year later to someplace else. And so I definitely think that home is 100% a feeling for me. And and it doesn't need to be, I say it's a feeling because it could be someplace like now. I mean, this is an apartment that nothing belongs to me. I don't have anything up on the walls. It doesn't need to look a certain way. It doesn't need to be, a certain aesthetic. I think it's just more of having a safe place for me to be able to just kind of relax. And since I had the twins, it's all about wherever they're comfortable. So, when they're comfortable and that makes me happy, so it makes my heart happy. So it's a total feeling. It really is. It's a feeling.
Mm-hmm. And you're known for this incredible career in sports psychology. Right now, you're in the first director of performance and mental health position that the Chicago Bulls has ever had. You're also the founding CEO of Wisdom Not, which is a nonprofit that you're working with in Chicago. And I think people really admire this incredible career that you've built. And you were just recently asked to speak at the Forbes Power Women's Summit. And you've built this incredible name for yourself in sports psychology. What do you think would surprise people about you? What's something that they don't know about you or the person that you are when you're at home?
What would surprise people? I am unbelievably, I don't want to say simple, but I'm going to say
Hmm.
simple. I mean, like I literally could eat a PBJ every single day and be real happy. I love
Me too.
PBJ. And I could, if you allow me, I would eat it every day. You don't have to surprise me with anything crazy. I'm really laid back. Again, like super simple. I don't need a whole lot. I think that would surprise people because I think there's that notion that because of all that I am, all that I do,
Hmm.
that I want more, and that's no, it's PBJ. I'm good.
I get it. I feel the same. And it's funny, our very first guest on Make Yourself at Home, Bess Friedman, who is the CEO of Brown Harris Stevens, she also loves peanut butter. There's just something like kind of comforting about it and homey and just simple and nice.
Yes. Yes, I love it. Yeah. And then I think for me it's in everything, all aspects that I say of my life is I live a um pretty dull, simple life. I mean, the career's great, definitely. But after work I'm picking up. Oh, I have a great nanny that does all the picking up and things for me. But I mean, we definitely have swim lessons and tap and music, and we got dinner and we got to
Mhm.
read and we got math homework and we got spelling test and all those things, and that's literally my life, and I'm good. I really
Mhm.
am.
And I think your career is so interesting because you are constantly trying to help athletes, make the most of their own performance and achieve their goals. And I can imagine that that kind of seeps over into your own life. Do you find that you are using those same concepts to try to optimize your own life, or what have you learned from your career that you apply in your personal life?
Sure. Actually, let me flip that around because that's what I
Yeah.
learned in my personal life is what I applied to my career.
Oh, very cool. Tell me about that.
As I was going through my education and learning about sports psychology, and I started to learn more about myself, and so I took the opportunity to learn more about me, and so as I finished up my degree and started working with athletes at James Madison, I started to figure out, or I knew I needed to come up with my own philosophy. And so I started trying to figure out what that would look like. And then I just remembered that my journey was, well, first started out with knowing what my strengths were. So I always talk about knowing what your strengths are, know what your superpower is. And then self-awareness, which is an ongoing process, so you always got to learn more and more about yourself. And then the other is the obstacles. And so that's how I got through my education, was using those three things. And so I thought, won't that work with everybody else, right? I mean, there's my philosophy. So I learned that personally and split it to professionally. So that became my philosophy and how I work with athletes or anyone, is that we're going to, find your strengths. We're going to work on self-awareness, and then we're going to figure out what those obstacles are, and help you guide you in that path. And so, and it's ongoing. It's not like you get there and then you're like, oh, I've stopped. You're continually going in that phase. And so yeah, that's essentially what I did. I use it personally, turned it professionally, and it's just, I still use it to this day for myself. It's not just,
Yep.
I just realized it and then stopped. I still do it for myself as well.
Yeah. And one of the things that you talk about that I love is that you really bring your authentic self to every
Mm.
situation. You're not a chameleon, being one person in one situation and a different person in a different situation. You're always, aligning what you're doing with who you really are.
Mhm.
How did you get to a place where you were solidly one person? I think a lot of people kind of struggle to get to that place in their life. And so was that something that was a journey for you, or do you think that you've always been kind of self-aware and self-possessed and you knew who you are really young?
No, I don't think that I've always known. I mean, I've surprised myself in things that I've been able to do. So I don't think that I've known that. I think the thing that I have self-consciously and then became consciously aware of was that I can only do so much and only can be so much. And so that allowed me to just try to be and do what I could do, which turned into, this is who I am. And so then that's where the authentic piece came from. But it came from a space of, I can only do so much. And so I need to just figure out what I could do and just do that and continue to move. And so I just continued that space. But I do remember, and one time when I was at JMU, that kind of reinforced that to me, is when I was standing actually on the football field with one of the coaches. And I don't remember what the comment that he said, but my response to him was something I would say to a friend. I mean, it was tongue in cheek and, definitely, probably wasn't something appropriate that a sports psychologist would say, but it was just, I was just talking to someone and he looked at me and started laughing and, said something back to me, and that built like a great relationship. And I just remember thinking, that's what I need to do. I just got to just be me, because that worked out really great in this situation.
Definitely. That makes sense. And so when you were younger in your career, or even when you were a kid, what did a successful life look like to you? What were you striving for? What were your goals?
Oh, wow. So different.
Yeah.
So different. Oh my gosh, if my younger self could see me now, I tell you, my literally my goal in life until I think I graduated college was to be married with children. So I had planned to, I was going to play basketball as long as I could play basketball, and then after basketball was over, I was going to get married and have children. I didn't think about job or like career. I was just, that's what I was going to do. And so that was literally that was my goal. It was to play basketball as long as I could, and then be married with kids.
Yep. And then tell me about that, sort of how you got to where you are now, and what do you think you would be the most surprised about, looking back at that younger self? What would your younger self be most surprised about how your life turned out?
Most surprised that I'm Dr. Borlabi. That would be the most shocking thing, is that I'm Dr. Borlabi.
Mm-hmm.
The career is something that is, I mean, it wasn't something that I thought about. It was pure happenstance. I had graduated undergraduate, and one of my coworkers was going to a sports psychology conference in New Orleans, and knew that I was an athlete and asked me if I would go with her. And so our job was going to pay for it. And so I went. And it was a great weekend in New Orleans. I didn't attend a single conference thing. I don't even think I even signed up or registered for the conference. I just had a great weekend in New Orleans. Yeah. And then, 3 or 4 years later, I was like, wait, what was that sports psych thing? What was that? And then I started looking it up and started, doing some research. And I was living in Atlanta at the time, and contacted Georgia Southern and decided to, go back and get my master's. And when I was in my master's, here to come full circle back to my philosophy, when I was in my master's, in my first year, a couple classes I was taking, I remember thinking that I was just talking to somebody, and yet I was figuring them out. And I thought, I could get paid for this. This is like, this is a strength of mine, and I could literally get paid for just talking to somebody and figuring out how to help them. Sign me up. I was like, this is a great, I don't have to work. I'm just being myself, And so, that's where I just kind of thought, this is my path. And went and just kind of took it off and went from there. But it was not something I knew about or even found out about. It was just by, again, by happenstance, which is essentially how wisdom knot, came about. Same premise.
Yeah. Tell me more about that and what that means to you.
Yeah. So wisdom knot came about, again, like I said, the same premise to me finding sports psychology is it's about educating inner city youth in careers in sports, besides being an athlete. And so, because I thought, I grew up in upper middle class America and had no idea of any other job in sports besides an athlete, a coach, or a sports reporter. That's all I knew you could do in sports. I didn't even know that there was, 100 other jobs. So my thought was, if we could educate youth, especially inner city youth, there's all of these careers. So we don't want to take away your dream. Dream as high as you want to. Be in NBA, NFL, high as you want to. We just want to plant these little seeds of all these jobs that you could have in sports. So in case you don't make it, maybe you could be a photographer. Maybe you could be a nutritionist, a massage therapist, a sports psychologist, a reporter, a photographer. There's, an agent. There's all of these jobs that you could do. So just wanting to plant those seeds in there for them.
That is amazing. And how cool that you can show them your own example, but then also, really work with them to see what they're interested in and see, a path that would work for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been lots of fun. It's been lots of fun trying to grow it. And as we continue, but I think it's just about not taking away your dream and just planting those seeds.
So getting back to your dream, so thinking about, being married with kids, then life happens. This career kind of falls into your lap. How did you think about that part of your dream once your career really started to take off and, your life started to go in sort of a different direction?
Sure. Yeah. So I just thought that it would all work out. I mean, I thought I'll just meet, God's going to send me a nice man on the process, it's just going to all work out.
Yeah.
Just going to go. But then I do remember getting to some point where my career was just skyrocketing. And I thought my personal life really isn't. So let me just focus on my career and not really pay attention. I mean, it wasn't like I was going, no, I'm not going to date. It was just like, let me just focus on career. It's going great. And so that's what I was doing. So I just started focusing on my career. And then in 2011, October 2011 is when, I get the doctor tells me I've had some fibroid problems and said, if you want to have your own biological children, this may be your only shot. And it was definitely but wait, I don't have a husband. What do you mean I can't? What's happening? And so I made that decision. I actually made the decision pumping gas. I left the doctor's office and I was getting gas on the way home and thought, okay, I'm just going to try using an anonymous donor. I'm going to try to get pregnant. That's what we're going to do. So,
yeah.
I remember I'd had surgery in January and everything went really great. And then, I chose an anonymous donor and God gave me twins.
That is amazing. And it sounds like there was really no hesitation. Like, was there a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, wait, like things were supposed to just work out? Was there like a sadness there, or were you really just looking at the pieces that you had in front of you and you said, this is the path, and you didn't really question it or look back?
Yeah, no. So there wasn't a sadness there. I think after the decision was made, there was definitely a part where I wanted to make sure that I would be okay, even if I wasn't able to get pregnant. But I will say that which is quite the opposite of what I do and working with folks and helping them talk through and work through things. The way my big life decisions literally come from a gut and I go with it and then that's it. And so, as I said, I left the doctor's office and I was going home and I was pumping gas and I was telling my mom and I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. And that was it. And so, I've moved cross country on okay, it's time to. And then I've changed and moved, no job, and done that several times. And so I have what I call like a waffle rule. I have my waffle rule. There's a nice home tip for you.
Yeah, I want to hear all about this. What is the waffle rule?
My waffle rule is that when I make a decision, any decision, and literally any decision, if I waffle on it, then it's the wrong decision. So, and I say any decision, meaning that I'm standing at the grocery store and I'm deciding I'm going to buy these bag of chips or I'm going to get whatever. If I'm standing there going, well, should I buy these chips? I immediately put it back because that means, no, I don't need to buy these chips. It's any waffle, any thought. If I change it, if I waffle at any point, then I just stop. And so when I made the decision, that October 2011 to use anonymous donor, that was it. It never came back. There was never any hesitation. If I would have hesitated, then I would have known it wasn't right. And so my waffle rule, my gut rule has never failed me. I've used it many, many times and it's always been right.
Wow. That is amazing. And so then you didn't waffle. Were there other people in your life saying, are you sure? Were they questioning this, or they just said, you know what, she's got her waffle rule, she's got this?
No, there were definitely, I think most people, I can't say most people because I didn't share with a lot of people. Prior to having the kids and realizing I need to talk about this more, I'm still a pretty private person, so I didn't share with anybody. And so this was hardly anybody. And so this was, my decision making. The people that knew, my family was supportive. And I think that like most things, everybody's really supportive until like it happens. And then they're like, oh, well, what are you going to do? Or how are you going to do this? And so, and then they see you managing it. And that for me, then they see me managing it and taking care of, the kids and myself. And then they're like, okay, yes, she can do this. But I'll have to tell you, Dr. Morales, she's probably going to kill me if she sees this. A funny story is that when it was time for the insemination, right? So we've got 4 beautiful eggs and so she was like, let's inseminate 2 and freeze 2. And I said, not unless there's like a buy one, get one, because this is expensive. This is, I'm doing this one time. Unless the next time is going to be free, this is a one-time shot for me. Unless the BOGO is not happening. So she was kind of hesitated, and she was like, "So you want me to inseminate all four?" And I said, "Yes." So she leaves the room, and her and the other doctor and the nurses that have been working with me the past few months, kind of had like a little meeting, like a impromptu discussion about my mental health. Did they think that I could actually, if I were to have multiples, could I handle this? Could I, am I someone that they thought could, and all the interactions that they've had with me over the last 4 or 5 months, is this something they think that I could do? And so she came back in the room and she said, could you handle this financially? And I said, yes. And she said, okay. She said, and then she told me, she said, whatever. There was like 5 or 6 of them. They decided that they had the conversation. They all thought, yeah, she can handle this. She can manage. She's a strong person. And so they had this conversation and decided, yeah, I could do this if it happens. And so.
And then you ended up with 2.
Ended up with 2. Exactly.
And I know that process can be very, heavy and emotional. And I'm curious about your mindset going into it, as somebody who helps other people achieve their goals, and this kind of situation is sort of out of your hands. What was your mindset going into it?
Yeah. So, as I said before, that my thought was that, I needed to try. I didn't want to not try. Mm-hmm. And so I was more trying to make sure that I was going to be okay if I wasn't able to get pregnant, thinking I can be a mom, I can, other ways, I can totally adopt. And so, for myself, it was just, I was just praying that I would be okay if I wasn't able to get pregnant. But I was going to move forward and still try to be a mom. And so that was something I was working or did for myself. But I will say that like this, and I think any other big decision, I think you have to look to see how you handle situations and crises and work through that. Because that's what I used in this process for me, how to manage my emotions and what helps me the best. And so I'm a person that to be all in it, thinking about it, write about it, talk about it, hash it out, that doesn't work for me. I don't solve problems that way. I need to, make a decision, or I need to not make a decision and then just go through life, everyday life. And then the decision comes to me. And so in this process, what I decided to do is just do that. I just kind of went through everyday life, and there was deadlines that I needed to do. And I do remember that picking a donor was kind of like shopping, and I detest shopping. So it was, that part of it was kind of a struggle for me. So I do remember I was actually with the sailing team in Mallorca, and then my doctor's office called and she was like, "Wendy, we need you to pick a donor and have it delivered here within like 8 days." And I was like, "Oh, wait, what?" And she was like, yes, I had stalled long enough. And I was like, "Oh." And so I actually, again, kind of similar with my little waffle roll. I sat on the beach and set a timer, had my computer, and just kind of started at some random number and, looked at the profile. So that looks good. Didn't. So I just kind of numbered my 1 through 5. And I gave the list to my brother and said, look at these 5 and see what you think. And he numbered 1 through 5. My number 1 was his number 2. His number 2 was my number 1. So I thought, we're on the right track. 3 days later, it chose, had it shipped out.
Wow. What a whirlwind.
You see the gut. You see how it's a quick thing. It's not right? I can't, the long process does not work for me. I need it's got to be, when it's a quick, then I know it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really resonates with me. And I think this is a really just fascinating insight, because I think, with sports psychology, you kind of are so always thinking about, how can I be better and optimize my performance and set goals and go after them. And I think what's really cool about you is you really have a trust in yourself and in your gut. Yes. And it seems to come through in every part of your life. And where do you think that mindset really comes from? Is that, just an inner joy and an inner trust in yourself? Is it something you've always had? Is it from your family? Where does that come from?
Yeah, no, I tell people all the time that I think it was always there, but I didn't really pay attention to it. My quote is that confidence is always is never lost, but always found. Because I think that we always say, oh, I found my confidence, right? I lost it and I found it. And I think we didn't lose it. We just didn't pay attention to it. We paid attention to the negative, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, that's what it was. I think that I wasn't, I think it was always there, but I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't realize it
Mm-hmm.
was there. I just focused on like negative things. And so when the positive things started happening, it was all like all of a sudden I was confident. I thought, but nothing happened. How could I all of a sudden be confident? I literally didn't do anything. I didn't get an A. This was before I started school, back to school. I was like, literally nothing had happened. I was working at a facility. I was waiting tables. How in the world did all of a sudden I gain all this confidence? It was just there. I just didn't pay attention to it. And that's part of that, that self-awareness piece I was talking about, that, when you start to learn more about yourself, then you start to, these little pieces come together, and it just kind of came together in that process for me.
And how do you help people sort of find that confidence? Any tips that you would share with anybody listening who wants to feel that way?
Sure. So let's see. Tips for finding confidence. I think the easiest, or maybe not the easiest, maybe the simplest is that we're looking at, we talk about goal setting, right? So setting goals is always a good way to instill confidence. You set goals that are things that are manageable. Use the smartest, right? The specific, measurable, attainable, right? Time-wise. And so I think those help as well. But I always like to think about self-confidence in a space of self-efficacy. And so self-efficacy is your belief in your ability to accomplish a single task. So if you're looking at global, like your confidence in giving a presentation. So if your confidence in coming in and talking to 1,000 people is really high in that, so your global self-confidence in the presentation is high. But you could have low self-efficacy in your ability to choose your topic, or low self-efficacy in your ability to present a story, which is just part of the presentation, right? Maybe you can't present stories correctly, so you could have low self-efficacy in that piece. So you work on that. So how do I increase that, right? So how do I increase my ability to tell stories really well? That's what you work on, which in fact affects your whole global self-confidence in your presentations. So I think that's a way to look at it, as if you're looking at something, you break it down. Don't look at the whole totality of it, because then you kind of get lost in that. But if you're low self-confidence in one area, I bet there's probably some parts of that area that you're confident in.
Absolutely. I want to get back to your story. So now you have 2 kids, and you were sort of in California by yourself with your kids and trying to figure out, how to balance all of the things on your plate. And so you make the decision to move back to Chicago and be closer to your family. And on this show, we really love to explore that intersection of home and success and home and career. And I think that's a really interesting moment in your life where your home and your career were kind of intertwined. And serendipitously, this opportunity at the Chicago Bulls comes up. So tell me a little bit about that story of how you found that job and how your kids played into that decision and taking that opportunity in Chicago.
Sure. So I was living in San Diego and working for the Olympics. So the twins and I actually have a son, my cousin so I'm originally from Ghana. So I adopted him, and brought him to the United States. So he was living with us. So I'm going to school. So I brought him to the U.S. so he could get his education. So we were in San Diego and living by ourselves. And I remember going to swimming class with the twins, and there must have been 2, 1.5, 2 years old. And a friend of mine was going with me, because you have to be in the water with each baby, correct? So I couldn't actually do both, right? So he was going with me, but he couldn't go that day. And so I didn't have anybody to go with me. And I thought, that's when it first started, appearing of like, oh wait, this is going to get only harder. And I need like support. I need, family. And then when my mom came to visit, and she'd come for extended periods of time, and she had a situation where she didn't have a blood clot, but they were worried about blood clots, so she couldn't fly for that. It was 5.5 hours from Oklahoma to San Diego. And so, I thought, I need to move to where I'm closer to family. And so my sister was living in Chicago, or should I say is living in Chicago. And she's got 2 kids. Her youngest one is like 9 months older than my twins. And so I thought, if we move to Chicago, which is an hour and 10-minute flight from my parents from Oklahoma, And then my kids could go with their cousins because I grew up with my cousins. I thought this would be, they kind of get to grow up the way that I grew up around, family. So I thought that'd be the best thing. And so at the time when I made the decision, I was not working for the Olympics because I'd stayed home. So I'd stayed home with the twins for 14 months. So, which was literally one of the best decisions. I love the fact that I got to stay home with them. It was hard as all get out. I was getting my butt kicked every single day because it was 2 against 1. But it was great. It was the summer of 2015, and I thought, I'm going to move to Chicago, but I wanted to wait for I wanted to have a California winter. So I thought, I'll wait till
Understandable.
I was like, I'll wait till the spring of 2016, and then we'll move to Chicago after we have winter in San Diego. So I made the decision I was going to make that move in April of 2016, and then I get a phone call in November of 2015 from Chicago Bulls. And so they were looking to hire a sports psychologist, and they contacted Ken Ravizza, which Ken Ravizza passed away about 3 years ago. And so they contacted him to find, help them in the search. And so my name was one of like 5 that he had given. And so they contacted me. And when I remember calling him saying, "Did you give my information?" And so got the whole spiel, the whole thing. And so when I met with them in January 2016, I thought I was going to meet them as an interview. They were literally offering me the job when I met with them in 2016. It was kind of one of those, we just want you to come see, this is who we are. It was a surreal experience for sure. I was just like, this is really unbelievable. I just remember getting in the car and heading to the airport and thinking, I'm supposed to be in Chicago. There's literally no way for me to decide to move to Chicago with 2 3-year-olds, no job, and then I get a job offer from the Chicago Bulls. I'm supposed to be in Chicago. God, this is God telling me you need to be in Chicago. This is where you're supposed to be. So clearly, said yes and came and moved in April to Chicago. And that was the reason was it was purely about family. I love San Diego, but I wanted them to be closer to family. But I wanted to share a story that I think would be actually interesting for the listeners, because it has to do with the fact, we've all been through the imposter syndrome, and we've all had that. We talked about confidence just a little bit ago, but when I got the call to go in there and talk to them again, I hadn't been working for 14 months. And so I remember thinking, can I do this? I'm like, can I really do this job? I haven't worked with players for almost 2 years. I'm like, this is going to be hard. I'm like, and why would they be calling me? I went through all of those things. Could I, again, the imposter syndrome, could I really me? And then my confidence, I wasn't really there, was shaken because I had only been talking to 2 3-year-olds. And so I remember a friend of mine told me to watch Being Mary Jane
Being Mary Jane.
Being Mary Jane. So she was like a head,
Yeah.
like the leading person on like a CNN type of a news show. And the episode that I saw, she had gotten into a car wreck. And so her face was messed up. And so they hired somebody to take her place. The person that they hired to take her place was actually doing a great job. So she was worried she was going to lose her job. And so she was trying to do all these things to try to save her job. But at the end, you see her looking into the mirror, and she's visibly upset, and she's trying to work her confidence. And so she's saying her script, how she opens up the show, and you can see it. And so she's struggling to say the words, and struggling to believe that she could actually still do this. You could see it, and it just keeps skipping to it. And you can see her slowly building her confidence. And then it goes to where she actually says it, and she's like professional. Then the scene goes directly from there to like these, I don't know, 4-inch stiletto leopard heels, and she's walking in them. And then it pans up to like, she's got this amazing dress, and her hair is done, and she's got these big glasses on, and she walks into the boardroom where they're all there, and she just sits down and just takes over. And I just thought, that's me. I watched the episode like the day before I was going to see the Bulls, and I was like, that's literally me. And I thought, that's literally everybody, right? You question, can I do this? I can't do this. And you talk yourself into it, and you try to get the courage and try to get the confidence, and you try to do it. And then when you feel it, you're like, boom, you take off. And I was like, that's it. I think for me, it was like a really powerful moment in myself going through the things that I have talked to athletes through, right? So I got to experience that whole piece, right? And then how to get that for myself. And so it's something that I definitely like to talk about, because I think, again, we all do it. We all experience it. We just don't ever talk about how we do it.
Absolutely true. I love that. And I'm going to have to go watch that episode. That sounds amazing. And we all need those things to kind of like inspire us to take control and feel confident. And, if she can do it, then I can too. It's such a nice example of that. And I know, one of the reasons that, this job at the Bulls felt right is the team there in Chicago and the people that you met that day. And I read a story about your conversation with Michael Reinsdorf, and that a friend of yours had encouraged you not to mention your twins in the interview. Is that true?
Yes, that is 100% true. Yes, it was a male friend, and stated that if you tell them you're a solo parent, they're not going to offer you the job, because it's a demanding job. Sports psychology, it's just a demanding job. You're there all the time, and my hours are reflective of what they're not doing. So it's not like I'm working 8 to 5, and crises don't happen 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So it's just, you're working all the time. And so, he just said, if you tell them that it's just you, they're not going to offer you the job. So don't, and he said, and legally they can't ask you. So just don't offer that information. And it was a struggle. I kept going back and forth at just trying to figure out, should I say something? Should I not say something? But ultimately came back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this podcast, which is I had to be myself. I had to be me, and being a mom was a big part of who I am. And so I had to say, look, this is, this is me. This is me. There's 2 kids and myself. I love being a mom, but this is it. And it was a moment that I could have missed out on. I literally could have missed out on a moment that he and I shared, the owner of the Bulls and I shared, if I wouldn't have said that, because he had a friend that had the same situation, but that friend had passed away. So he knew exactly the surgery I had. It was just, I would have missed that moment and not been able to share this part of me, that authentic part of me. And so, it worked out great for me. I know sometimes it doesn't, but I think for me, it doesn't work out great. If it doesn't work out great, I think it's because of the other person. It's not because of you. Because when you're authentically you can't, there's no other place to be, right? You can't deny that. And you can't say, oh, if I'd have been this way, it would have been that way, because then that's not you. That's not you. You have to stick with who you are. And if it doesn't fit for somebody else, then it doesn't fit for them. But that doesn't mean that you're not okay or that you're not great.
And I love that story. And I think it is just such a good reminder to be yourself and to be true to yourself. And I think, working with athletes, they can't separate what's happening at home from what's happening on the court. Like, they're going to bring their whole selves to work that day, and we all do the same thing. And so I'm sure you've seen that play out so many times in your career, but to hear an example of that in your own life, I think is really powerful and really inspiring to hear.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah, they know, they bring it. I think that they learned how to separate it for like 20 minutes. Or, or 10 minutes at a time, or whatever. Everybody does it differently, but that's what they do. I think that's the piece. That's probably one of the bonuses of their job, is that they only have to like not attune to it for like 45 minutes, as opposed to like you and I, we're working an 8-hour job that it's 8 hours if it's in our head, right? They can put it aside for 45 minutes and do their job, and we still got our job is a lot longer than that, and so. That may be one positive, but yeah, it all comes together. Absolutely.
Yep. And so when you look at your life today, what does a life well lived look like to you? What do you feel like you're striving for now? And, what do you think a happy, well lived life looks like to you moving forward?
Ooh, what am I striving for now? One, get the house to be completed. That's definitely something.
Yes, that's critical.
Is to get the house completed. I think I want to raise well-rounded, beautiful human beings. That is just a priority that I want to do. I want to be an integral part of helping them just be who they are, right? And enjoy that. But then also, again, just be well-rounded. So that's a well-lived life for me. And then I think as I say, last but not least is me. I mean, I think that I have, although my career has been great, but I think that I've put myself on the back burner at different times. And so right now I'm learning how to put myself in front at times, making sure that I'm okay. And making sure I'm able to do things that I want to do, as opposed to always thinking kids first. And so I think they're at the age where I can start to do that. And so that's something I'm working on now, is trying to make mom, see what mom wants and help mom do all these things. 'Cause I mean, I feel like this is, again, they're older. So I'm like, it's time for mom to start dating again. Now we're back in that space, and so all of those things that I think that I've just kind of put aside, I want to be able to try to put that in forward, because I think that's a good role model for me, for me to show them that you can still, you can have a job, you can have a career, you can, take care of your family, you can still struggle with this and struggle with that and still be happy and successful and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. I want to get into our lightning round and ask you some fun questions, but thank you so much. I just love talking to you. I feel like we could have gone on for hours and hours. So to start off our lightning round, what is one thing you do to unplug?
To unplug. Oh my gosh. This is going to be so terrible, but I love to watch Hallmark movies.
Gotta love a Hallmark movie.
It ends in happiness.
I know.
It ends in happiness. That's a way to unplug. It's a way that I don't have to think or process, because they're usually the same kind of, storyline, so I don't have to follow it anyway. So I can just kind of be there, and there you go. So I would say that.
Yeah, they're very joyful. That's so true.
They are.
What's one of your prized possessions?
Oh my gosh. One of my prized possessions. Oh, this is good. The first thing that came in my head is my Terry Bradshaw jersey.
I love it.
Literally the first thing that came in my head is my Terry Bradshaw jersey. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
That is a great answer. And from somebody in the sports world, I like hearing that. That's very fun. And I know that your daughter has a prized possession that really means a lot to your family. So I wanted to ask you about that and why it means so much to you guys.
Yes, Gem. Yes, GEM is her sock monkey. And oh boy, do we take good care of Gem. So Gem was given to my daughter when she was born. So he's literally been with her for 9 or going on 10 years, by her uncle Ross. And so I named him Gem because my daughter's name is Scout, and To Kill a Mockingbird is my favorite book. And so I love the little girl, Jean Louise. In the book, Jean Louise was just a beautiful soul, beautiful character. She was a strong little girl that loved her dad, that loved her brother, that wanted everybody to get along, but she was still pretty tough. And so I loved Scout. And Scout's brother in the book is named Gem. So that's why we named the sock monkey Gem. So it's Scout and Gem. Scout and Gem ride again in our house.
I love that.
Scout
and it'll
Gem,
be all of their 10th birthday coming up next week. That's exciting.
Oh yeah, and Jim gets a present. I buy Jim a present too for his birthday. He's literally a part. Yes, when I say he's a part of us, I mean, like when I've had this is funny. I had to give her the conversation, the realization that he's not real, about 4 years ago when we were traveling, and she wanted a ticket for him to get on the plane. And I said, well, he doesn't have one. And she was like, well, he's not getting on the plane. And so I'd explained to her. Oh. She looked at me like I crushed her, but I was just like, he doesn't have a ticket because he doesn't need a seat. He's a sock monkey. I'm like, he's your doll, but you can't. To us and our family, he's real, but to everybody else, he's not real. So that's where it is. To our family, he's real, but everybody else, he's not real.
That is amazingly sweet. And what a cool kid that she wanted a ticket for her sock monkey. That is just delightful.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of birthdays, I know for your birthday you did 50 days of or 365 days of posting on Instagram when you turned 50. Tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about that and what you learned from that experience.
Yeah, so I wanted to do something that was going to challenge myself. And again, I said earlier that I'm a pretty private person. And so I wanted to, well, the things that I post on Instagram or Facebook are not personal by any means. If it is, it's something funny, but but I thought I need to get out of my comfort zone and stretch myself emotionally. So how do I do that? So that's what I thought. Every day I had to post something. So that meant I had to find something every day, which means at some point I'm going to have to get emotion's going to get in there. I'm going to have to share something. And so, I wanted to put that challenge on myself for the whole year. And so that's where that came from. And so, there were definitely struggles, definitely things of like, what to post, or even should I post this, or oh my gosh, I have to post something and I don't want to. But I think the fact that I was able to do it for me was a very big accomplishment because again, knowing that that's something I would not normally do, and I wanted to stretch myself. I thought, just because you're 50 doesn't mean that you've arrived anywhere. We still gotta try to be a better person, and this is part of me trying to be a better person.
Amazing. Would you say that you're a homebody?
100%. 100%. Yes.
What's one thing in your home that makes your life easier?
One thing that makes my life easier. Um, Again, my first response. I love showers. I love to take like a 30-minute. Love showers. But I'm in the remodel. I'm making I'm not making, but I'm having a steam shower put in for myself. So that is literally my space to just sit and relax. But if I have a stressed day, I'm going to be in the shower. That's where a hot, powerful shower that makes things all the world.
Yes. Yes. Just a moment of reset. What's your
Yes.
household pet peeve?
Oh my gosh. If you don't put things away. At the end of the day, the whole house is clean. It's not you start fresh with the brain, every morning, everything. So everything's got to be put away, and clean and dusted and whatever at the end of the day. And then you start out. And so it's a pet peeve to have something out or not put away, or there's,
Yep.
it's got to be, I don't know. I like the cleanness of things.
Yes. It's good for your mindset too, to have things just kind of clean and fresh start.
Yes, absolutely.
What's one daily ritual or family tradition that you really treasure?
Oh, daily ritual. I'm going to say two, and they're involved semi. With the first one is I have a cup of tea, hot tea every day. I love hot tea, so I have a cup of hot tea every day. No phone, no TV, no nothing. Just quiet for like 5 or 10 minutes. Naturally, because I love hot tea, my kids love hot tea, so they've been drinking hot tea for we have tea parties. They love hot tea, so I think that's something that happens. But on a one thing that I literally look forward to every day is bedtime, because it's our bedtime routine is where I lay with my daughter in her bed. She reads, I read, we snuggle, we talk about the book, talk about the day. I put her to bed, and then I go to my son's bed because he stays up a little bit later, and then we do the same thing. He reads, I read, we talk about the day, and then I put him to bed. So they each get their own, 30 minutes of just personal mom time, and I get to just give each child their own little focus, and so I love that. I really love
Yeah,
that.
that is a really nice way to end the day. That is very sweet. And what inspires you to live better?
Oh, the twins, without a doubt, the twins. They inspire me to live better, be better, want more, all of those things. It's all about for them, for sure.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm just so happy I got to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. This is great. This is so great. I'm so glad that you do this. I think this is just one of those, I think the information, the conversations that we need, but don't know we need it until we actually listen to it, Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that is the goal. It's just amazing to talk to people like you, who I think, you're one of those people that people look at and they say, wow, she really has it figured out. like you have achieved so much and accomplished so much, and to hear from somebody like you and to hear you be vulnerable and to share these stories that have really helped you get to where you want to be, I think is just really powerful and really inspiring. So thank you so much for being so open and for having us into your home.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd love to do this again.
Yes, me too. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. Wendy Borlabi for welcoming us today. And be sure to follow along with her on Instagram at Dr. Borlabi and at WisdomKnot. I'm Kristen Twyford, and if you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll subscribe to Make Yourself at Home and leave us a review. Make Yourself at Home is presented by Nines, household management software that helps you manage your properties and everything that comes with them, so you can make the most of your time at home. Learn more at ninesliving.com.